God chose him. God anointed him. And then, God rejected him. He never asked to be famous. He never asked to be king. Saul was a simple man, called by God to lead a nation. He won battles. He saved cities. People shouted his name. But insecurity, disobedience, and jealousy slowly poisoned his heart. In the end, the same man who once united Israel died alone on a battlefield, abandoned and afraid. This is not just the story of a king. This is the warning of Saul. 1 Samuel chapter 9 to chapter 31.
Before anyone called him king, Saul was just a man from the tribe of Benjamin. He was tall. The Bible says he stood head and shoulders above everyone else in Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 2. He looked like a leader. People noticed him when he entered a room. But inside, he did not see himself that way. He was from a small tribe, and even in that tribe, his family wasn't powerful. He carried insecurity quietly in his chest like a stone. One ordinary day, something small set everything in motion. His father's donkeys ran away. It sounds like nothing, but God often starts destiny with something that looks like an inconvenience. Saul's father, Kish, told Saul to take a servant and go find the animals. For days they searched hills, valleys, villages. Nothing. Saul was ready to give up. He said,
"Let's go home before my father starts worrying about us, instead of the donkeys."
but the servant said,
"Wait, there's a man of God in this town, a prophet. Everything he says comes true. Let's ask him."
That man of God was Samuel, the last judge of Israel. Samuel was old now, with a face carved by years of prayer and war and sorrow. And Samuel had just heard from the Lord, "Tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. You will anoint him ruler over my people Israel." 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 16. When Saul arrived, Samuel looked at this tall young man and knew, this is him. To Saul it was confusing. He had come for donkeys. Suddenly this prophet was treating him like royalty. Samuel sat him at the place of honor at a feast. Samuel spoke to him alone. Samuel took a small flask of oil, poured it on Saul's head, kissed him, and said,
"Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?"
1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. In that moment, Saul became the first king of Israel, but only a few people knew it. For now, Samuel told Saul signs would follow to prove this was real, and they did. The Spirit of God rushed on Saul. He even prophesied with a group of prophets. People who knew Saul were shocked.
Is Saul also among the prophets?
1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 12. God was putting his Spirit on Saul. God was equipping him. God was giving him every chance to succeed. To understand Saul, you have to understand Israel at the time. Israel had no human king yet. God was their king. But the people had been begging Samuel,
"Give us a king like all the other nations."
1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 5. This desire wasn't just about leadership. It was about image, protection, power. They wanted someone visible to stand in front of their armies. God warned them through Samuel,
"A king will take your sons for war, your daughters for service, your fields for himself. You'll cry out one day."
but they insisted. So Samuel gathered the tribes publicly at Mizpah to reveal the king God chose. One by one, tribe by tribe, family by family, the lot fell. Benjamin, Matri's clan, Kish's son, Saul. When they looked for Saul, he wasn't standing proudly in front. He was hiding. He had hidden himself among the baggage and supplies. 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 22. From the very beginning, Saul carried a trembling heart. He was anointed, but afraid of being seen. Still, when the people saw him, this towering figure, they shouted,
"Long live the king!"
Some men celebrated him. Some men despised him quietly and said,
How can this guy save us?
They refused to honor him. Saul said nothing. He let it go. He swallowed the insult. At first, this was humility. Later, we'll see it change into obsession. Soon after Saul was revealed as king, Israel was tested. A cruel Ammonite king named Nahash surrounded the Israelite town of Jabesh-Gilead. He offered them a peace deal.
Surrender, and I will gouge out the right eye of every man in your city, and use the shame against all Israel.
1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 2. That was the darkness Saul walked into. When Saul heard this news, something supernatural happened. The Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, and anger, holy, righteous anger, burned in him. 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 6. This was not insecurity. This was not fear. This was a king rising. He cut his oxen into pieces and sent the pieces throughout Israel with a message.
Whoever does not come out and follow Saul and Samuel, this is what will happen to his oxen.
The fear of the Lord fell on the people. An army formed. Saul led Israel to a swift, decisive victory. Jabesh-Gilead was saved. Nahash was crushed. After the battle, some men said,
Where are those people who doubted Saul? Bring them out so we can kill them.
But Saul stopped them.
No one will be put to death today,
He said.
for this day the Lord rescued Israel.
1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 13. That mercy, that humility, that was Saul at his best. After this, the kingdom was confirmed. Samuel gathered everyone at Gilgal. Offerings were made. Saul was publicly established as king. Israel finally had what it wanted. And for a moment, they had a good king. Power tests you. It will show what was already in your heart. War with the Philistines never fully stopped. Israel's enemies were still strong, especially the Philistines with their iron weapons. Israel was afraid. At one point, Saul's son, Jonathan, attacked a Philistine outpost and provoked a large Philistine response. The Philistines gathered with chariots and soldiers like the sand on the seashore. Israel's army started to scatter in fear. 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 5 to 7. Samuel had told Saul,
Wait 7 days. I'll come. I will offer the sacrifice. Then we'll move.
7 days passed. Samuel did not arrive yet. Saul watched his men slipping away hour by hour. This is where we meet Saul's weakness. He feared losing people more than he feared disobeying God. Instead of waiting for Samuel, Saul said,
Bring me the burnt offering.
and he offered it himself, something he was not allowed to do. He stepped into the priest's role without authority. Right as he finished, Samuel arrived. Samuel's face carried grief and disappointment.
What have you done?
Saul started explaining, excusing, blaming the situation, blaming fear, blaming delay. Samuel did not bend.
You have done a foolish thing,
Samuel said.
You have not kept the command of the Lord. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now, your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart.
1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 13 to 14. That moment is the turning point. It's like a crack running through glass. Quiet at first, but it will spread. Saul was still king on the outside, but God had already started looking past him. Saul kept fighting, but something in him began to twist. While Jonathan led a bold attack against the Philistines and, through faith, caused confusion in their camp, Saul made a reckless order.
Cursed is anyone who eats food before evening, before I have avenged myself on my enemies.
1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 24. That sounds spiritual, but watch the wording.
Before I have avenged myself.
The battle raged all day. Saul's men were exhausted and starving. Jonathan, who hadn't heard the oath, ate some honey he found. Later, when Saul found out, he declared Jonathan must die for breaking the oath. Jonathan, his own son, the army stepped in and defended Jonathan, saying basically, "Jonathan saved us today. We're not letting you kill him." Saul backed down. But something is clear now. He was starting to speak like a king who loved control. He was starting to put his name, his oath, his honor above the people. The humble man who once spared his critics was starting to harden. Then came the mission that sealed his fate. God, through Samuel, gave Saul a direct command about the Amalekites. 1 Samuel chapter 15. The Amalekites had attacked Israel in the wilderness long ago in a cowardly way, hitting the weak and the tired from behind. God declared judgment on them. Now Saul was told to carry out that judgment completely. The command was strict: strike Amalek. Do not spare. Do not keep their wealth for yourself. Saul went to war and Israel won. But then Saul did something dangerous. He spared Agag, the Amalekite king. He kept the best animals alive, the best of the sheep, cattle, fat calves, and lambs. Everything that was good. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 9. To Saul, this made sense politically. Parading a captured king makes you look powerful. Keeping the best livestock makes your people happy. You look generous later if you offer some of it to God. To God, it was disobedience dressed as religion. When Samuel arrived, Saul greeted him cheerfully.
The Lord bless you. I have carried out the Lord's instructions.
Samuel just stared at him. Then he said one of the coldest lines in Scripture.
What then is this bleating of sheep in my ears? What is this lowing of cattle that I hear?
1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 14. Saul panicked and started explaining again.
We kept the best to sacrifice to the Lord your God.
Not my God, your God. Samuel's reply cut like a sword.
Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams.
1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. Then Samuel delivered judgment.
Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king.
This time Saul broke. He grabbed Samuel's robe in desperation, and it tore. Samuel said, "Today the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you, and has given it to one better than you." 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 28. From that day, Samuel never visited Saul again in friendship. Samuel mourned for him, and the Lord regretted making Saul king. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 35. The Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and something darker began to trouble him. Not long after, a young shepherd named David was brought into Saul's court. By now, David had already been secretly anointed by Samuel as the next king. Saul didn't know that yet. What Saul did know was he was being tormented. An evil spirit troubled him. His moods became violent, despairing, paranoid. His servants suggested music therapy. They said,
There is a son of Jesse who plays the harp. He's brave, he speaks well, he's handsome, and the Lord is with him.
1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 18. David came. He played. And Saul felt relief. For a moment, this is tragic and beautiful. The rejected king is soothed by the future king. The man who is losing God's favor is comforted by the one who carries it. Saul began to love David. He made him an armor-bearer. Then came the giant. The Philistine warrior Goliath challenged Israel, mocked God, and terrified Saul's army. The king, who once burned with the Spirit, now sat in fear, unable to face the enemy. David, still basically a teenager, stepped forward in faith and killed Goliath with a sling and a single stone. He cut off Goliath's head with Goliath's own sword. The nation roared, the women sang, and their song was a knife.
Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands.
1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 7. Listen to how Saul processes that.
They credit David with tens of thousands,
He thought,
but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom?
1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 8. From that day forward, Saul watched David with suspicion. Saul's fear of losing honor had become jealousy. Jealousy became obsession. Obsession became violence. The spirit that tormented Saul grew stronger. One day, while David was playing music for him, Saul suddenly hurled a spear at him, trying to pin him to the wall. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 10 to 11. David escaped. Saul tried again later. Again, David escaped. Saul then tried to trap David politically. He offered David his daughter in marriage, hoping to get David killed in battle. David survived. David married into the royal family. The more Saul tried to control David's fate, the clearer it became. God was with David, not Saul. Eventually, Saul openly ordered his servants and even his own son, Jonathan, to kill David. This is especially painful because Jonathan loved David like a brother. Jonathan warned David. He protected him. He pleaded with Saul. David has done nothing but good for you. For a moment, Saul seemed to calm down. Then he changed again. His mind was now a storm that never stayed in one place. The king of Israel, the man chosen, anointed, celebrated, had become a hunter of the innocent. And David ran for his life. Saul's paranoia kept deepening. When David fled, he received holy bread from a priest named Ahimelech in the town of Nob. Ahimelech wasn't part of any political plot. He thought David was still serving Saul. Saul heard that the priests had helped David and snapped. He accused Ahimelech and the entire priesthood of conspiracy. Even his own guards were afraid to harm priests of the Lord, so Saul commanded Doeg the Edomite to do it. Doeg slaughtered them. He killed 85 priests in their linen garments, and then struck the whole town of Nob with the sword, men, women, children, even animals. 1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 18 to 19. This is the moment Saul fully crosses the line. He is no longer just unstable. He is spilling priestly blood. He is attacking what is holy to defend his own throne. A king who once said, "No one dies today," in mercy, now orders an entire priestly city destroyed out of rage. That is how far his heart traveled. David, now a fugitive, hid in caves and deserts. Saul chased him with armies. Twice God put Saul right into David's hands. First time, Saul went alone into a cave in the wilderness of Engedi, the same cave where David and his men were hiding in the darkness. David's men whispered, "This is your chance. Kill him." David crept forward silently, and instead of killing Saul, he only cut off a piece of Saul's robe. Even that small act made David feel guilty. He called out to Saul afterward and showed him the torn cloth. "I could have killed you. I didn't. I am not your enemy." Saul wept. He said,
You are more righteous than I. I know you will surely be king.
1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 17 to 20. But soon after, the rage returned, and Saul hunted him again. Second time, David sneaked into Saul's camp at night while Saul was sleeping. He took Saul's spear and water jug from beside his head. He could have ended Saul's life easily. He didn't. Again, David called out, "Why are you chasing me? What have I done?" Again, Saul's anger softened. Again, he blessed David. Again, it didn't last. 1 Samuel chapter 26. The tragedy in Saul is this. He could still recognize what was righteous. He just couldn't remain in it. He flashes in and out of clarity like a dying fire. Time moved forward. The Philistines gathered for a massive war. Saul was terrified. He asked God for answers, through dreams, through prophets, through the sacred Urim, and got nothing. Heaven was silent. 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 6. The same Saul who once pushed out mediums and spiritists from the land because God forbade them, now secretly went to one. He disguised himself and went at night to a medium at Endor. He begged her to call up the spirit of Samuel. Samuel appeared, and this was not comfort. Samuel told him plainly,
"The Lord has turned away from you. The kingdom has been torn from your hand and given to David. Tomorrow you and your sons will be with me, and Israel will fall to the Philistines."
1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 16 to 19. Saul collapsed to the ground, shaking, weak, consumed with dread. He knew it was over. The next day, Saul went to war on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines were brutal. Israelite soldiers were cut down. Saul's sons, including Jonathan, the good, loyal Jonathan, were killed in front of him. 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 2. Imagine Saul in that moment, surrounded by ruin, wounded by arrows, watching his dynasty die, knowing this is judgment. When the enemy closed in, Saul refused to be captured alive and mocked. He asked his armor-bearer to kill him. The armor-bearer, terrified, wouldn't do it. So Saul took his own sword, leaned forward, and fell on it. 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 4. When his armor-bearer saw this, he did the same. The army broke, Israel fled. The Philistines came later, found Saul's body, cut off his head, hung his armor in a pagan temple, and nailed his body to the wall at Beth-shan as a trophy. But the men of Jabesh-Gilead, the very city Saul saved in his first great victory, remembered him. They traveled at night, risked their lives, took down his body and the bodies of his sons, and gave them burial with honor. 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 11 to 13. Even after everything, some people still loved Saul. Saul's story is not simple. That's what makes it powerful. He was chosen. He was anointed. He was brave. He was used by God. He was also insecure. He feared people's opinions. He drifted from obedience into image management. He began to protect his position instead of his soul. And when the Spirit of the Lord left him, he tried to rule without the presence of God. And that destroyed him from the inside. Saul is a warning and a heartbreak. He shows us that you can start humble and still fall. You can be gifted and still lose yourself. You can fight God while claiming to serve Him. You can hold the crown and yet already have lost the kingdom. And he also shows this: even a fallen man can still be mourned. Samuel wept for Saul. Jonathan loved Saul. Jabesh-Gilead honored him. Saul's life ends in tragedy, but not in total hatred. He is remembered as Israel's first king, the man who began the monarchy that would one day lead to David, and generations later to Jesus. What can you learn from the life of Saul? Share your thoughts below.
Thank you for joining us today. If this story has blessed your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for another interesting Bible story.